Deal going on right now, debate over Prop P, and we talked about it earlier this morning, and the pros and cons, and some of the mistakes some of the supporters are making in terms of not convincing voters that it's not going to be just a slush fund, but also the supporters. And I told you I'm going to vote for it. I mean, I support. I believe when I'm listening to the commercials, even with Steve Stenger, I'm like going, yeah, I know. If we don't do it, we can't do this. It's like, well, I wish you would actually budget so that we don't need to have these emergency tax hikes. And I wish that actually once you got around to having to be forced to budget, the first thing you chose not to help out would be the police. So that's my problem. I'm looking out for the actual officers. And there are a lot of people I trust who support it. And there are a lot of people I trust who don't support it, too. But I'm just telling you, people ask me what my opinion is, and that's what my opinion is. So earlier, though, we had Tim who called in, and Mayor Nation of Chesterfield was in the article, the Christine Byers article. It's a good article. It's a well-balanced piece in the Post-Dispatch about Proposition P. So if you want to kind of get both sides and figure out where you stand on it, it's and we'll put the article up there on the stove, and Christine did a good job with that. So anyway, Mayor Nation basically saying he's against it. We don't need this money, and for a variety of reasons that he'll be able to articulate. But Tim called in earlier this morning and had this to say about the mayor. Check it out.
Hey, Mayor Nation's talking out of both sides of his mouth at this point, because last year he was in front of the state legislature and successfully lobbied to change the sales tax distribution in St. Louis County so that his municipality got another couple $300,000. Apparently that must be enough for him, because now he says he doesn't need the money, that his city is flush.
Interesting.
So this is a case of apparently he's got his, nobody else should get theirs.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. I didn't know that he did that, because he is saying in the paper, he's like, I got the money. We don't need it. And it's like, okay.
Keep in mind one other point. He's still suing St. Louis County and all the other municipalities in state court right now to abolish the sales tax formula, to go ahead so he could charge whatever the heck he wants for sales tax in Chesterfield.
Interesting. So Mayor Nation has called in. He's like, hold on one second. I'm going to defend myself on this one. And so Mayor Nation, privileged to have you on the air with us. Thank you so much for calling into the show.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Good morning.
Good morning to you too, sir. So what is that? What's wrong with what he said there? Tim did.
Well, several things. The majority of what he said is kind of a misconstrual misrepresentation of the facts. And thank you very much for playing that for me in order to give me an opportunity to hear what
yes, sir.
said. Several things. Actually, there are about 4 points. First of all, the comment about we don't need the money. I've heard that comment from many other mayors of many other cities. And, government, if you ask government at any level, can you use more money? Well, they're going to kind of turn the other way and with their hand out in the back and say, well, yeah, we'll take more money. Especially if we can blame it on somebody else for having given it to us without us seeking it.
Right.
So, and that seems to be the case here. So, for us to say, uniquely that Chesterfield doesn't need it, that is not the case. Many other cities, we could use additional revenue elsewhere, in other areas of the cities, do a better job of, fixing the potholes and actually fixing some of the streets that St. Louis County is responsible to repair, but doesn't.
Right.
Or whatever. So that's a misnomer right there, that we uniquely, individually would say we don't need the money. I've heard the same thing from a number of different mayors. If this thing were to pass and then they were involuntarily receive the additional revenue. And I've also specifically heard from a number of mayors that if this thing were to pass and they were to involuntarily receive the additional revenue by virtue of their population, and it were stipulated or insinuated that they needed to spend that revenue on public safety or law enforcement, all right, if it was stipulated, maybe they would do that, but the other revenues that they previously had dedicated towards law enforcement, they would spend elsewhere because they just do not feel the need to spend additional revenue for law enforcement.
Okay.
He talked about the lawsuit a little bit. I could talk about that. I could talk about the sales tax legislation. the pool tax thing, I'll just briefly comment on the lawsuit. It's true the city of Chesterfield and let me back up and just say, this is not just me being opposed to that. Our entire city council passed a resolution in opposition to Prop P. So we have some very sharp individuals who are able to analyze this thing and look at it for what it is. So
right.
This is not just me. This is our entire city council. The litigation that Tim mentioned, this was filed back in December of 2014. It's taken quite some time. The lawsuit is against the state, primarily the state, because it is a state statute that dictates the redistribution of revenues. Whereas, we've been giving up more than half of what is generated within Chesterfield from the 1%, they call it countywide pool tax. And so the legislation that he was referring to that was passed last year simply said that Chesterfield and 6 other cities that were receiving less than 50% could receive a minimum of 50% going forward. And by the way, those 6 other cities on a percentage-wise and dollar-wise basis benefited much more than Chesterfield did. As far as the litigation goes, I know this is really complicated, and there's so much information that people can't possibly be expected to understand all this stuff. But the litigation that he's speaking of that was filed in 2014, that many other cities and the county pled to enjoin as defendants. After the sales tax legislation was modified last summer, after Governor Nixon signed it on the 1st of July, I believe. Mm-hmm. Then the petition, the plaintiff, the petition had to be modified to reflect the new wording in the current statute. And so we contemplated, well, what's going to be our position? We were asked, or it was suggested, well, what are you going to do? You're going to put this on hold? Are you going to withdraw it or whatever? And after consideration of that, we thought our position should be that let's put it in hold, let's put it in abeyance, and let's see how this new system works.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
See if it's actually going to work the way we think or we anticipate that it should. So that was our petition to the court at the time, and unexpectedly, the other municipalities in the county, or at least the other municipalities, one or more of the other parties objected to that and said, no, let's just continue this thing, let's just get it on. So we had no choice but to continue to pursue this, and I believe there's a scheduled hearing next month in Jefferson City, Cole County.
Okay.
So that's the deal there, and the main gist of it is that the statute, it's a special law. It's unconstitutional.
Right. Okay. Well, Mayor Nation, I'll tell you what. And on the lawsuit thing, I'm going to have to get you. I'm out of time here.
Right.
But I appreciate you calling into the show and clarifying a couple of those things, because it's only fair that you're able to do so. And folks, if you want to know more about Mayor Nation, he's right there on Facebook. We'll put the link up to the Facebook page to re-elect Bob Nation, Mayor of Chesterfield. The vote is April 4th. At Bob for Chesterfield is where you can find them on Twitter as well. And thanks for calling into the show. Appreciate you, and thank you for your service in the United States Army as well. And we'll talk to you again soon.